All right. Hello, everybody. So, if you're watching this in the future, after the live stream, the live Q&A portion is going to be starting in about 12 minutes or so, so you might want to skip ahead to that. But if you're here right now with us live, just hang out. Enjoy this windy scenery that we've got today. I'm going to keep setting up, and at 10:30, the live Q&A starts. All right. Cool. I also need to set up my phone. It's like sleeping. That's what I really need to do. Okay, do you want to set that up? I think I'm setting under yellow one right now, but you might have to do that. Do I?
It could be on you.
I can be on me. Okay.
There it is.
Let's see.
Now I'm gonna pause it.
Okay.
But you'd have to go talk to the mic to hear you.
We actually have quite a few people from British Columbia, Canada, signing on today. Welcome. And people from Michigan and South Carolina. And Mike Wilbur. Nope, you are not the only one here.
I want to bring up a camera for lighting.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do.
Do you want to tell them that they might pause for a second? Because I'm gonna
Oh,
go
yeah.
share it on Facebook.
Pardon the interruption, but we may pause for a moment so my brother can go share the link on Facebook. Be right back. I don't know.
Are you ready though? Because if you are, you can just start going through like the first, like scroll through what people have said so far. If you
I did, and I don't want to answer any of those things.
not like questions, I just mean like people said hi.
Yeah, we should get the mic set up. I just wanted to check this stuff.
And you probably should make this one that's really windy so
Yeah. That'd be good. We'll see. Oh man, they're gonna hear a lot of, because it's cold out here. Sorry guys.
You did pick the spot.
Yeah, we did. We picked an outside spot because we thought it would be nice. It's a little windy today and a little cold.
I'm gonna punch in closer to you.
Closer? You want to come closer?
I think I will.
Okay.
It's like
The light seems like it's going to be a little harsh though. Is it okay?
no, it's
Okay.
it will be a little
I
more.
want to make sure I can see everything. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, hi. I'm just going to keep saying hi to people. I can't believe how many people have already chimed in. I've never done this before, and I honestly thought the first time I was ever going to do a live stream was going to be on Instagram. It's just a little less intimidating. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should, because it's definitely, you get to see more of me and my personality, a little more personal stuff too, and so I'm a little more comfortable on Instagram just because I know and interact with those folks over there a lot. And so to be on YouTube, I'm scared. Okay.
You should mention the mic too, hopefully.
Oh yeah, we have my mic kind of tucked into my jacket to try and help damper out the wind. So I apologize if the sound is going to be a little bit funky, but you know what? It's all right. We're doing this for fun. We're going to have fun. I'm going to have fun.
Should I pan to where we're at?
Yeah, this is where we are. So you can just kind of get an idea. I'm gonna have to keep opening this.
Alright, are you ready to say hi to people when you probably go into it? I think we're there, right? Timing wise?
We are at 10:28. 10:28. 2 minutes until I answer the first question. But hey, I can't believe people from all over the place. So I already mentioned a few places, but upstate New York, hi Jacob. La Grande, Oregon, hi Craig, pretty cool. Kentucky, Kylie, I think that's Ontario. Hey, lots of Canadians, this is great. Michigan, Oklahoma. Denver, Colorado, Switzerland. Sweet. This is great. Indiana, did I already say that? I don't know.
Indiana, someone said.
Yeah.
John Otter.
Excellent.
Southern Illinois.
Southern
White
Illinois,
salmon.
there we go. Hey!
Who's from White
Who's from White Salmon? You know exactly where I am, don't you?
Hey, stay away, social distancing.
Stay away, social distancing. For anyone who is concerned, we do live in a very rural area. My brother, who is with me, has been pretty much isolated, self-quarantined. He has been, as well as I have been. So for us to be outside together, we did evaluate, you know, what cross-contamination would look like, and we've both taken high precautions. So to be outside in a spot like this is okie dokie. Belgium, North Africa, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
40, 41.
Sweet. This is so cool. All right, one more minute and we'll see how this goes. I think the first minute. Oh, thanks, Amanda. My sister says I'm looking good, you know, which is great because there's 4 of us, girls in my family, the sisters. She's definitely the supermodel one of us all, so it's a high compliment.
John says as long as
As long as I don't breathe, I'll be fine. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. I'll just lots of sniffling right now from the wind and the cold. Southern Oregon coast. Cool. Oh, sorry, my other sister, Mackenzie, now has piped in and says, what rude. Mackenzie, you're beautiful. I'm so sorry. Amanda's just a lot taller, so, you know, that's what I mean by supermodel. I know you both did modeling. Okay, well, just leave it at that. You realize... Oh, so many, yes, thank you for saying so, love the Mac. It was pretty cool to see your mom on Instagram. Maybe she could be in some of my videos. Yeah, totally. I guess we're at 10:30. Let me just talk about that real quick. Yeah, if you don't follow me on Instagram, my mom the other day and I went on a hike and I got her in front of the camera a tiny, tiny bit, which was great because she is, she's kind of a quiet, shy personality, so I wasn't sure how well she would do with me putting the phone in her face, and she did awesome. She answered the questions that you guys submitted, and it was pretty adorable. She's awesome. So yes, I have thought about having her in a video, a YouTube video actually, and my brother and I just recently mentioned this, because my mom is one of those people who doesn't like mushrooms. Like, she doesn't like the taste and texture of them really, and she just, you know, once I got into the mushroom thing, to her it was, you know, she didn't really participate. She thought it was cool to look for them, but she definitely didn't want to eat any until I found Hericium abietis, which is kind of a Pacific Northwest species, very similar to lion's mane. We refer to it as bear's head. Anyways, found this mushroom, cooked it up for her, and she was totally blown away. She loved it. It was delicious to her, and now she asks me to find it for her all the time. So it's kind of fun. I want to do a video with her of finding that mushroom and then also cooking it up, doing like a little cooking thing. And just her, you know, being on there would be super adorable, talking about how it's fun. Yeah, so that's great. So let me do a little welcome real quick here. Does that sound good?
Sure.
I keep looking at my brother for like cues of, is that okay or not? So hi everybody, welcome to the live stream. We are out here by a live stream. Actually, it's a river. I'm just excited to be here with you guys. Maybe bring a little bit of the outdoors to some of you who are quarantined currently. And also just to have a little fun, you know, liven things up right now. Looking forward to when we can all go back out, be a little more social and everything. So here we are, being social online. If you don't know, my name is Rachel Zoller. I am the yellow Eleanor person here. And obviously, if you're here, you know about my YouTube channel. And I like to talk about mushrooms and foraging and ID, so we can talk about that some today. We already had a lot of questions and comments rolling in, so I am going to look at a few of those real quick. And we will start off with that. Perfect question, Andy. Thank you very much. Hi, tell us how you came up with Yellow Eleanor. Love your videos. Thank you very much. So yeah, let's answer that question because I've answered it a couple times on Instagram. But just because the flux of people in and out of this kind of a thing, people don't always know. So Yellow Eleanor, people often think it's the name of a mushroom. It's not the name of a mushroom, it's actually the name of a flower that is yellow. And this is gonna gauge your nerdiness now, okay? So the Yellow Eleanor, sometimes referred to as the Golden Eleanor, the Eleanor flower grows in particular, well, okay, a couple places. Middle Earth, mostly, we'll just say Middle Earth. And the elves brought it to Middle Earth, and it's a very special flower to them. And so if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings or Tolkien's writings, it's a very special flower, and it does grow in Lothlorien on Middle Earth, but it was something that was brought over from Tol Asair, where they originated from. Anyhow, so the Yellow Eleanor is that. And when I first started my Instagram account, many years ago, I had been off of social media for a really long time, and I had collected a ton of mushroom photos, and I wanted to do something with them. So I was like, hey, this Instagram thing, I hear it's for photos, so let's put some mushroom photos up online. I didn't want to use my name. I wanted to be anonymous online. Joke's on me now. But so I went with yellow Eleanor because I had just gotten my very first macro lens to put on my phone to take like really up close photos. And the first photo I took with that macro lens was of this really tiny yellow flower, kind of star-shaped flower, which is what Tolkien describes the Eleanor flower to look like. So I decided to call my Instagram Yellow Eleanor. Unbeknownst to me, that putting little educational blurbs online about mushrooms and having photos of mushrooms was going to become something that people loved. And so it just grew from there. And by the time I started doing teaching and educational stuff outside of that, and YouTube, it was like, you know what, that's what I was known for. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to just keep it Yellow Eleanor. And it's kind of a cute name, and it has a fun little meaning behind it. And that's what it is. Very nerdy Tolkien reference. And I would like to fancy myself as an elf anyways, so that works. Dot Amos says hi, hi. Oh my goodness, hi. The little girl who used to come over to your house is all grown up. Hi. It's awesome. I love that question. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's see. Oh my goodness, so many things. This is so much to go for. Okay. Oh, okay, here's a funny one. What exactly did you harvest in the snow in your Star Wars themed video? It looks beautiful and I wanted to learn more about it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Can we share our movie magic with them?
We have to take it 100% seriously.
We have to take it 100% seriously.
We're like probably the only people that really have any good information on it anymore.
Oh, so this Star Wars episode, I was harvesting Lomni lichen. And if you don't know, lichen is a combination of a fungal component, an algal component, and also bacteria. And so the Lomni lichen, when it is harvested, it can be processed into what is known as spice. Spice in the Star Wars universe is kind of synonymous with drugs in a sense, or uppers, or those kinds of things. We're not promoting that. So that is why Lomni lichen is harvested and it's on the black market.
You can let them know we're big Star Wars fans.
And my brother and I are big Star Wars fans, if you can't tell. So anyhow, but in the video we were talking about wanting to do additional research on it, and going to the depths of the planet Hoth in order to discover it. So you really won't find a lot of literature on it, partially because of its black market aspect, but also it is definitely within the depths of the Star Wars nerd realm.
So you're going to go back to science here.
I know we did go back to science. We've talked about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and Star Wars so far. Yeah, you're getting to know me a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so here we go.
And rub your tummy at the same time.
Can I pat my head and rub my tummy at the same time? Yes. I can pat my bun.
Good job.
I haven't done that in years. There you go. That was really good. Okay, so would you put Verba bohemica in the edible category? Love that question. Excellent. Okay, so this is great topic. So Verba, if you don't know it, by a lot of people call it a false morel. The term false can apply to any mushroom that is not the real one, okay? So there are a lot of false morels. So Verba in particular is something that as you start to get into mushroom foraging, people really try to hammer in the difference between Verba and Morels. It is important to know the difference because you need to be 100% on your ID whenever you are going to eat something, okay? So the thing with Verba is it has gotten a bad rap because if you eat them undercooked, they can give you a pretty extreme stomach upset because there are some toxins in it. But you need to understand there are lots of mushrooms that we eat on a regular basis that have toxins in them, except these toxins are broken down by heat. Okay, so one of the mushrooms that contains toxins that is really popular is bing, 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 the Morel. The Morel itself. Okay, so the Morel and the verba kind of are pretty much equal when it comes to the toxins contained in them and how those toxins are broken down when they're cooked. So, I don't know of a word yet, and me and my mushroom friends discuss this on a regular basis. There needs to be a word, and maybe there is in science that I don't know, that describes something that is edible but needs to be processed first. And there are all sorts of other foods that are this way. There are a lot of other foods that are like this. They're just as normal and common for us to process or cook or dry or soak in water first to render them edible. So for me, verba, I wouldn't, for myself on social media, I wouldn't just slap edible label on there. I feel like that's a slightly irresponsible just because there needs to be a little more education behind it. But I would say that edible with processing, edible with cooking, those kinds of things. When it comes to the Morel, enough people just know, because it's so popular to eat, you know that you cook them and you cook them well. It's just common knowledge. So that doesn't have to necessarily be explained as much, if that makes sense. So yeah, the verba, I would say it's an edible mushroom, but you just have to cook it thoroughly. There you go. That's a great question. That goes across the board with a lot of other mushrooms as well, as far as toxicity and whatnot. Don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you. Have you met Paul Stamets? Any collaboration planned? Oh, so that's fun. I have met Paul a couple of times. Don't have any collaborations planned with him. But here, I'll share a story. This is why we're here. We're here to share stories. So when you first get into the mushroom world, often the first name you hear in the mushroom world is Paul Stamets. He's as close to a rock star as you can get in the nerdy world of mushrooms. And so when I first started my mushroom journey, I was actually quite isolated in it. I didn't have any mushroom loving friends. And so a lot of what I was learning was on my own. Of course, I heard of Paul Stamets right away. But then I also heard a bunch of other names. You know, there are other people that are kind of, you hear about like Alan Bissett and Gary Linkoff, and there's other big names. And Michael Bugh was also another name I heard quite a bit, and I knew that he was somewhat local. So then I hear that Michael Bugh is going to be doing a fundraiser in my very, very small town. Like, how many, like 1,000 people in this town or whatever. And so I was in shock. Why is Michael Bugh going to be in this my small town? This is crazy. So I go to this event and he starts talking and he's like, so I live here, such and such. I'm trying not to give away like where I live exactly, but like, I was so surprised that I was like, what, you live there? I yelled it out in the middle of the lecture and I was super embarrassed because I didn't realize he literally lived like 2 miles down the road from me. Like, we're neighbors. And so I got to know Michael and we've been able to hang out quite a bit. He has done a lot of teaching at Evergreen State and he brings students down and I've gotten to go out with his students. But to bring this story full circle is Paul Stamets went to Evergreen. His instructor, his professor was Michael Bugh. So because of my connection and my friendship with Michael Bugh, I have interacted with Paul here and there. But one thing that I find really interesting about this is the amount of impact that one person can have in someone's education, because Michael did not like mushrooms, thought they were gross. He was a chemist, so that's what he was trained in. And one day a friend of his gave him a brown paper bag with morels and was like, come on, you gotta try these. Morels are the best. They're a kind of mushroom that you're gonna love. So Michael cooked these up, loved them, was like, I need to learn how to go find these myself. So in his process of learning how to find morels and already having kind of a science background, he got sucked into the world of mycology and just went for it. Now, is one of the top mycologists in the world. He is the taxonomist for NAMA, North American Mycological Association, who collects all the data for the toxicology reports and such. Anyhow, so then he goes, of course, and becomes a professor and is Paul Stamets' professor, and Paul Stamets has had a huge impact in the mycology world. And then, Michael has had a huge impact on me, all because somebody was like, no, you should like mushrooms, try these morels out. And it just is a chain effect, and I really love that, because for me, myself, I'm not a trained mycologist. I never went to school formally for this. I sometimes hesitate to even call myself a mycologist. So it's great because I know I can have that kind of impact on somebody. I can bring them out into the woods and help them find a certain mushroom for the first time, open their eyes to the little tiny things, and who knows what the ripple effect will be and the impact on science and the impact on education. So it's really cool. So there you go. It's not a direct Paul Stamets story, but indirectly, there you go.
Some short answers.
I should do some short answers. What state are you in? I am currently sitting in the state of Washington. But I can see Oregon from here. I'm right along the Columbia River and the Columbia River Gorge. So if you aren't familiar with the Columbia River Gorge, definitely look it up. It's amazing. It's only like an hour, 20 minutes out of Portland. And it's just beautiful. It's this beautiful little canyon where we've got amazing hikes, amazing mushrooms. There you go. Let's see. Is there a mushroom ID app that I like? As far as one that is strictly, you snap a picture of a mushroom and it tries to help you find an ID, there isn't really anything. And as far as like being like a nice categorization on your phone as an app, there's nothing that I actually really enjoy. But I do have two suggestions for you. There are now a lot of books that you can download onto your phone, so there are a lot of field guides that are now accessible that way, so you can have a field guide on your phone. Mushrooms of the Redwood Coast is like that, which is a great field guide if you live kind of Pacific Northwest, Northern California. So you can have all of that on your phone, which is great. You can flip through the pages, and field guides are pretty heavy to carry around. It's a great idea. My second suggestion is iNaturalist. iNaturalist is a great kind of a community science-based app where you can take a picture of something and post it on there, and it will give you suggestions of perhaps what type of plant or bug or mushroom is, so you can kind of narrow it down. And then you can post your photos and other people can help try and identify it. The beautiful thing about this is as you are posting on iNaturalist and you get enough people confirming your ID, enough people who are, I guess I should say, in the category of qualified to confirm your ID, your photos become research grade. So I know a lot of you out there take hundreds and hundreds of photos of mushrooms every year. And I'm posting them on iNaturalist, and having that on there, you're participating in science. So you're getting help with your IDs, but you're also able to create research grade data for folks. So that's a really great route to go. I highly recommend that. iNaturalist. We'll say it one more time. iNaturalist. It's fantastic. I will say just a slight caveat when it comes to mushroom ID apps in general. They are wonderful to help you narrow down what you might have, maybe narrow down to the family or to the genus that you might have. The issue that comes up with fungi and mushrooms is that there's so many and they're so regionally dependent. Like what I have here in Washington or Oregon is going to be totally different than what is in Texas or Colorado or New York. And a lot of the apps are trying, they don't have the depth to cover all of that, so you might get an answer of what looks like your mushroom, but it might be something that actually only grows on the East Coast, but you live on the West Coast. So it'll help narrow it down, but it won't get specific. iNaturalist, however, is more committed to that and has a lot more people involved to help get into those IDs. So, hope that helps. iNaturalist is pretty cool. Do I have stickers? I don't have stickers yet, but that's something it's like a huge thing right now. All my mushroom friends are
I love stickers.
creating stickers and swapping stickers with each other and have each other's stickers up on their sticker walls. And I don't have stickers.
Nope.
But Sheila, is that who asked that? Or who asked that? I can't find the question. Sorry, I didn't read your name. Yes, I should get some stickers. And once I do get stickers, I would totally be up for sticker swaps because I think it'd be super awesome. I've seen such creative stuff come out of stickers. All right, do you keep journals or notes or spreadsheets regarding where when you find different varieties? Yeah, I do. So I do have a journal that I have with me usually when I'm out. I haven't kept up with that as much the last 2 years. But I always write notes. iNaturalist again is another great way to keep track of those things. And then also with my phone, I keep the geotagging on my phone, which I know a lot of mushroom hunters don't do that because then they're afraid people will find their mushroom hunting locations from the photos. But that also helps. So I do. I don't have any spreadsheets. I've seen some cool spreadsheets. My favorite spreadsheet is my friend Leah Bendelin, Leah Mycelia on the Instagram world. She has this amazing spreadsheet of all the mushrooms that she has eaten, their flavor, their texture, and if she had any adverse effects with them. Because there are tons and tons of mushrooms that are actually edible because they're non-toxic but aren't necessarily like tasty or, you know, they might be kind of chewy or funky. And she has made it a mission of hers to try as much variety as she has. She's well over 200 different species now. That's the coolest spreadsheet I've ever seen, but I'm not as organized as she is. Have I seen the Fantastic Fungi movie yet? I have, yeah. And I would like to see it again. I will admit I was slightly distracted when I watched it. I got to see it in Portland in one of the premieres there. Louis Schwartzberg, who is the director, what is he? He's the filmer. He's the one who does all the time lapse. He's the filmmaker. So Louis Schwartzberg. I actually was a huge fan of Louis Schwartzberg's work before I got into mushrooms. So when I heard that he was doing a movie on mushrooms, it was like I was so ecstatic. His time lapse photography is amazing. He's the first person I ever saw doing it with mushrooms on a big scale. So anyways, when I watched the Fantastic Fungi movie, he was there. And after the movie, it was myself, one other gentleman, and Louis Schwartzberg up on stage on a panel answering questions. So I liked the movie, but I was very distracted and nervous because I was going to be doing that following up to the movie. Also, it was super cool to see people I knew in the movie as well. Will, and didn't expect to see that. It was just neat. So yeah, go see it if you have a chance to see it. I think now you can actually access it online, so it's cool. Can you share your mushroom spore art project that you did with the kiddos? Oh, thanks, Haley. I'm not. Do I have some spore prints? I might have some spore prints. Let's talk about spore prints. Do you know what spore prints are? I think most of you probably know what spore prints are, but let's talk about it. So mushrooms, they produce spores. You can't see the color of the spores unless you collect them in mass. So the way that you do that is you take your mushroom and you lay it on a piece of paper and let the spores release. It's usually good to cover the mushroom maybe with a bowl or something so that the air currents don't move the spores around. Zach, you'll have to tell me if you can see this. But then they will drop spores. Can you see it? And then you can see the color of the spores.
That one's harder to see.
All right, so this is Amanita muscaria, which is that classic Alice in Wonderland mushroom. You know, it's got red with the white spots on it. It produces white spores. This is a Cortinaria species, which is it's a purple mushroom, but it produces kind of rusty orange colored spores. So different mushrooms produce different spore colors. So my kids and I, we love to do spore print projects, and it's just really fun in general with kids. It's something you can do. You can find mushrooms in your yard and just take them inside and decapitate the heads, the caps, put them down on a piece of paper, cover them, wait a few hours, and check on them. Using different colors of paper is fun because if you have mushrooms that are producing white spores and you only use white paper, you won't be able to see it as well. But I like to layer the mushrooms up. We have a piece of paper on our fridge at home, and we just kind of keep adding to it. So it's really neat to see like the different layers of spores adding up, and it's just created this really beautiful piece of paper with kind of pinks and browns and oranges and whites, and yeah, really neat little project. So there you go. Spore prints, that's something fun to do with the kids and for yourself. And the reason spore printing, I guess I should say, is it helps in your identification. I like to really compare it to a library. If a library had all the books just kind of mixed in there together and you go in, you know your book's somewhere in there, but it's going to be hard to find it. But because the library is categorized kind of in types, you get to go to exact sections and know how to find that book. That's what spore printing will do for you. So you know the spore color of your mushroom, you know like a very defined section to go to either in your field guide or in your online research to narrow down what that species might be. There you go. Mushrooms are like outer space. Yes, they are.
Have they seen your shirt?
Oh, have you seen my shirt? There are mushrooms in outer space. I should have worn my shirt today. I'm so sorry. Oh, so Mark S., my daughter is asking, what's your favorite mushroom to eat? 6-year-old mushroom hunter named Lila. Hi. So my favorite mushroom to eat is what is called bear's head. That's the common name for it. And it is a white mushroom that looks like a bunch of little spines or little icicles hanging off in multiple branches, and it grows on trees or logs. That is my... We do have some videos on it actually, so after this, if you haven't seen that video, you can go check it out. So bear's head, that is my favorite mushroom to eat. I love it. It has a kind of a sweet flavor profile, has a really nice texture, and you can eat it as is. Is that plane gonna be really loud? Going by, I don't know if you can hear, sorry, there's a really low flying plane that's really loud. Anyways, that's my favorite mushroom to eat. I love it. And it's something that I always have plans to preserve, but never do because I end up eating all of it. Which happens a lot. Where did you learn everything about mushrooms? First off, I definitely don't know everything about mushrooms. It's definitely one of those curves of you're like, wow, I know so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so smart. Holy cow, I really don't know anything at all because there's so much to know. I'm definitely in the I know nothing at all spot right now. I know more than most people, but I feel like I know nothing at all because of the depths of which mushrooms and fungi go. But how I got started in this and how I learned was a lot of self-learning, self-education. I was homeschooled, so I actually contribute my homeschooling for my ability to be able to take deep dives into topics and educate on my own. I previously stated in this live stream that I was kind of isolated in my mushrooming journey. I went out with a group of people I actually didn't know super well. The first time I kind of came across edible mushrooms, they knew enough about chanterelles to show me what a chanterelle was, that you could eat it. They didn't know the names of a lot of other mushrooms, but we were seeing tons and tons of other mushrooms. My eyes were open. I was like, I need to learn about this. This is crazy. I spent so many years out here exploring the woods, and how have I never paid attention to this before? So that's what got me going. I went home, I cooked up those chanterelle mushrooms. They were incredibly delicious, and I was like, I need to figure out how to find those again. And what's actually really funny is I couldn't remember the name of the mushrooms. And so I remember that it started with a C, and it sounded kind of French, and what the mushrooms looked like. So through like Google searching, I remembered, oh, chanterelle, that was the name of the mushroom. So that was the one I first was initially researching to see if I could go out and find it again. And it was maybe a few weeks later, I just started, going out as much as I could. So a few weeks later into this process of trying to find chanterelles again, but also trying to take pictures of all the other mushrooms out there, I had one specific incident where it was these very beautiful little tiny mycelium mushrooms. They're kind of pink. And I took a photo of them, and I was just sitting there looking at them, and this question just popped into my mind of, what are you doing here? These beautiful little mushrooms, what are you doing here? And it was a really profound moment for me, because it went from like, what can I eat, to what can I learn? And that really is what sank me down into the rabbit hole of wanting to learn. And quickly I realized there's not a lot of good beginner resources out there. You kind of have to dive headfirst into it. I tried to learn online as much as I could, but it was really confusing. I didn't understand the terminology. I started to buy some books, and I definitely bought some books that were way over my head at first, which was, in a way, kind of helpful in part of the process, because I was forced to learn some words that were really hard. And so that was that. But really, I would say, like, for me, my learning solidified. Like, a lot of that I was doing on my own. But what really took it over the edge is once I connected with other mushroom people. So then I started my Instagram that was centered around mushrooms and what I was finding. And then I was able to connect with people, other people that were doing kind of the same thing. Leah Mycelia, I already mentioned her once. She is, I can honestly say, I think her and I were the first two people ever in the Instagram world to have Instagrams that were only about mushrooms. I think it was just her and I. And she actually lived only an hour and a half from me. And so she was part of the Oregon Mycological Association. I decided to go down to a meeting and be brave. I don't like big groups of people and being the only person I know. That scares me. I know a lot of other mushroom loving people are kind of shy like that too. But it was the greatest thing, because I was able to connect with other mushroom people who wanted to learn just like I did, who had maybe learned a little more or maybe didn't know as much, and I was able to teach. And it's kind of like, you know, someone above you, someone below you, who are you learning from, who are you teaching kind of aspect just took off. And that's how I got more plugged into the mushroom world, and where my education, I would say, really started to solidify and, you know, become this. There you go. Have you seen any questions I should answer, Zach?
Oh, lots.
Oh gosh. Yes.
That's why I said you might have to do shorter.
I need to do shorter. You know I can't talk less. So my brother, he will try and give me time limits like on our YouTube videos. And he's like, just talk about it, just a few sentences. I was like, okay. And it's like 5 minutes later.
No, it's 15 minutes.
It's 15 minutes later, I'm still talking about it. Let's see. Oh man, there are a lot of things. Trying to go back towards the beginning because I had seen some other questions. This is the awkward lull where everyone's just staring at me, staring at my phone. Is this what meta is? I've never understood that term. I don't know.
Do you grow mushrooms?
Do I grow mushrooms? I don't. I have, but I don't. I don't have, I am currently, my housing situation, I am living in someone else's house with them and don't really have space for that. But I have done some like block growing, like kits and stuff. I did, if you guys know Radical Mycology, Peter McCoy, I took a course with him, and so I have the knowledge, and I have a whole box of supplies of stuff for when I have a place to start doing that more full time. I would like to. If you want to grow mushrooms, there are a lot of mushroom farmers right now who are selling kits, which is a great place to start, so you can just kind of see the process, and then after that you can maybe start doing some inoculations of your own. It's not that challenging, actually. I just don't really have time and space at the moment. I want to be in the woods. There was someone who asked a question about, oh, here we are. It was way at the beginning. Talk about how to prepare mushrooms and turn them into powders for turning into broth. And also, are puffballs okay to freeze for using later? Okay, so I guess that's a lot of things. But for turning them into powders for broth later, is a really fantastic use of mushrooms. And really, most mushrooms you can do that with. The advice I have for you is you have to make sure you dry them until they are like cracker dry. So, excuse me. Like out of the dehydrator, they crack, and then you can put it in a food processor if you have a high-end blender, and then just keep it like that. It's really super simple. There are some mushrooms that definitely have better flavor to them when they are dehydrated and then powdered, and some like chanterelles aren't generally, they don't hold their flavor as well when they are processed in that way. So every mushroom you do have to learn as an individual. It's just like I talked about this in some videos before. It's just like vegetables, you know, just think about the variety in a garden. You're not gonna cook, process, or preserve them all the same, and each mushroom is going to be different as well. As far as puffballs, I personally don't have a ton of experience with puffballs. We don't have like those massive puffballs out here, but I have heard from other friends that they have figured out ways to freeze them and preserve them. I don't have any recommendations of really how to approach that. It's just not a mushroom that I have in abundance over here, so I don't get to deal with as much. Yes. What else, Zach? What else? Does anyone use a basket-style backpack for mushrooms? Any preferences? It's kind of a question to the group. I don't use a basket-style backpack thing because I always have a backpack full of other supplies, usually. And so I just use a regular basket. But for quick little jaunts in the woods, I think that would be really nice.
What's your favorite color?
Green.
Okay.
My favorite color is green. What East Coast mushrooms do you envy? Black trumpets. As far as edibles go, that I would say. Maitake. I'd say another edible and highly medicinal mushroom that we don't get over here, that I'm jealous and envious of. I would also say that there are some things on the East Coast, like, it was East Coast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Certain areas of the East Coast are a little more like subtropical feeling, especially the summers there. And so there's some cool things, like a lot of the stinkhorn varieties that we don't get out here that I am jealous of. I know like they're stinky and weird or whatever, but like I think they're so awesome. The one time I got to go look for mushrooms out there, I found a few tiny little stinkhorns, and I was so jazzed about it. And I know some people are like annoyed with them because they get in your gardens and they don't go away, but it was awesome for me.
I have to repeat it though. How are you affected by COVID-19? How can we support you? Will you still have a spring season?
Oh, okay. So the question was, how has COVID-19 affected me? How can we support you? And do I still have a spring season? Oh, okay. So I guess, yeah, on a personal level, how it has affected me, it has given me a lot of anxiety. I'm taking more medication. We're just going to go with that. No. My spring season, okay, so this is really interesting. This spring, this 2020 year, I decided to change up the way I was teaching. I primarily do a lot of forays into the woods, bringing people into the woods, and I usually have done this through other organizations. So say an outdoor organization or a school or a college hires me, and I take groups of people out into the woods. These are usually really small groups of people. But I chose for the year 2020 to essentially cut that out of my year, and I wanted to focus on creating new educational ways of getting education out there more on my terms, in way I wanted to educate, ways I wanted to bring people into the woods that are a little less dictated by what an organization is looking for. Focusing more on reciprocity and fungal roles in the environment, and not just on edibles, kind of combining that a little bit more. So that to say, I stripped my schedule clear of these small groups of people in the woods things, in order to make room for more lectures, more in-classroom stuff, more things that are free, so like going to libraries and speaking. So what did that do with my schedule? It was jam-packed full this year instead of small groups of people to large lecture halls in classrooms. And yeah, so unfortunately, that means goodbye to those classes. My events in April, yes, it's just not safe to do any of those. We're not even gonna go there. So my primary source of income when it comes to the mushroom education was those things. So I'm kind of out of a job in a way. So that is how it has impacted me that. I am really wanting to try and get some stuff up online where it is kind of my lectures that I would do in these educational classroom style settings, where I have my slides up and I'm teaching you as if you're here with me, to maybe do like a pay-per-view type thing. That's always accessible so you can watch it any time, but then maybe also doing some where it's like a live session like this at the beginning, you watch the recorded lecture and then I come back live to answer questions. Those would be more of set time frames. Things that would be a couple dollars to participate in, that kind of a thing. So looking into that, so if I do that, supporting me by spreading the word of that and watching, here's like a way you can support me that's super easy and kind of cheesy and might not even make me much money, but watching my YouTube videos, if you let the if you let the advertisements play, or if you click on the advertisement, I get a fraction of a penny when you do that. If you skip the ad, it's nothing. So that's the way YouTube works. That's the way monetization works. So if you want to endure those 30 seconds of advertisements, good on you. Thanks for that. Other ways to support, I am going to try and get maybe a few more items up in my Etsy shop. Right now I only have the one t-shirt that I created last year for the 50 years, celebrating the 50 years of Fungi. I think I only have like 20 shirts left from that. So they are still in my Etsy shop. Yellow Eleanor, that's how you find that on Etsy. So buying stuff off of there, if I get more things on there. And if you have any other creative suggestions, I am open to that. You can always email me at yelloweleanortv@gmail.com. It's also on my website. And what was the rest of the question? Support me. Yeah. There we go. Oh, will I have a season? Well, not really. I think we'll do maybe if things, depending on how things go, depending on how well everybody is quarantining themselves. Quarantining? What? Depending on how much you are self-isolating and how much we can flatten the curve of the COVID. Perhaps late spring there will still be a season. We shall see. As far as my brother and I are concerned, we have self-isolated, and so us going out and filming, we might be able to still go out and film and get some new content up for YouTube. That will also depend on what the government issued mandates are for, I mean, it is our job and it is our work. But it's probably not essential work, so.
Here's a question.
Trying to figure that out.
I have trouble pronouncing Latin names from just reading. Did you learn from hearing other people saying them, or is there a website or something?
Okay, that's great.
Repeat some of that.
Okay, so the question was, having a hard time pronouncing Latin names, and how did I learn? And they were learning primarily from reading. Do you learn from reading or hearing other people say them? So yeah, Latin, first things first, is a dead language, and yeah, there are some general rules that you can follow in order to pronounce Latin. But when it comes to pronouncing binomials, which is the genus and the species of a mushroom, there are many ways that you can say a single name and not be wrong. So just know that, and that is really hard to kind of follow, excuse me. So for me, I learned primarily from reading as I was kind of learning on my own before I plugged into the mushroom community, which means I do pronounce things different than many other people do. Some of my language and terminology has shifted now that I hang out in more like mycology-centric environments. So I'm always going to say Amanita. I'm never going to say Amanita. Just doesn't feel normal in my mouth, even though a lot of other people do that. I say Rusula, and many people say Rusula. Most people say Rusula. I'm gonna always say Rusula. It's just how, I learned from reading it and pronouncing it in my head, so some things are gonna stay that way. And unless I learn, that there's a strict correlation to why Latin is pronounced a certain way, I'm probably not gonna change it. If you guys are familiar with Tom Volk, you should become familiar with him. He is an incredible mycologist. He has a website where he has is it a mushroom of the week or mushroom of the month or something like that. And there's a little tab that you can click where it plays the mushroom name and how he pronounces it. So for me to learn how to say chlorophyllum maldites, I listened to that thing on repeat at Tom Volk's website. So there you go. That's the only place that I know that really has that on there. You can find some general like Latinized or binomial type things that you can pronounce. That's a helpful hint.
Don't stress it.
Yeah, don't stress it. Say it how you want to say it. And then if someone corrects you, it could also just be regional. I have noticed like on one mushroom club, they kind of might say something some way, and then you go to the other state where I might go talk over there, and that mushroom club says the mushroom slightly differently. It just is your group that you're hanging out with.
When can I expect to see Morels in Southern Oregon?
When can you expect to see Morels in Southern Oregon? Okay, so let me think about this. 3 weeks. I'd say in 3 weeks. I mean, we had that warm spell, but then we also had some cold snaps. I haven't been in Southern Oregon in the last 2 weeks, so I can't say for sure. But here's a really good tip when it comes to finding Morels and knowing when to start looking, is when the night is no longer dipping below freezing. So, at night gets maybe right at that freezing level, but doesn't really dip below, and the days are hitting 60 degrees. And you get that pattern for about 2 weeks, that's when you can start expecting to go look for Morels. That's just a helpful hint. So that means, like I live in an area where we can find Morels, like lowland Morels, 3 weeks before we find the mountain Morels easily. It's just because, that weather pattern is different. So start paying attention to that. Start paying attention to also the little buds on the trees and the little flowers on the ground, because if you can engage your mind into telling the signs of that, this season, it'll clue you in for next season of when to start looking for them, because it kind of all happens in succession as the temperatures change. There we go. Any other questions, Zach? Did you already prepped up?
I'm lined up at the moment.
Okay.
You got a shout out from the UK though.
Sweet. You would totally join an online class. Thank you, Katie. That's awesome. And like squid coming out of the ground. I love them too. You are referring to, I'm sure, stinkhorns. Yes, like squid coming out of the ground. They're just insane. They're so cool. Where did you go to college and what was your major? Oh my God. Nothing related to mushrooms, that's for sure. Okay, so here's my story. Let's think. Okay, so after high school, I didn't go to college right away. I went to South America and I lived in Bolivia. And after that, I came back home and then I went to Canada and went to school in Canada for 1 year. only 1 year. I guess I only went to school there at a very small Bible college. and then later, maybe there was another gap or two in there, I believe. Then I started going to community college, and I got my associate's degree at a community college. I did take a ton of biology courses. I took so many biology courses that I was told I couldn't take any more. I had to take other things, and I couldn't even take any more biology electives because it wasn't going to count towards my associate. So I did like that stuff. It was mostly a lot of human biology, anatomy, and stuff like that. Then I did a course for phlebotomy. So phlebotomy, not lobotomy. Phlebotomy is blood, people who poke you in the arms and take your blood. So I did that through college, and I was a phlebotomist and worked in healthcare for a while. Eventually I became a pre-analytical trainer for Kaiser, so their Northwest region of facilities. I trained home health nurses and incoming phlebotomists into Kaiser with drawing blood and lab work associated with blood. And so that's my eclectic history with school and what I did with that. Yeah, not mushroom related.
There's a couple questions now.
Yeah.
Have you read All the Rain That Promises and More? I know you have, or at least you've seen it or had it.
Yeah. Where are we at?
Your book's out. Is it one of those?
All the rain promises and more. I love it. I really love this book. So David Aurora, if you're not familiar with him, he is also a name that you hear right away. What's great is that I live on the West Coast where David Aurora is from, and so a lot of the stuff that he writes is very applicable to my area. But he has such a cult following, and especially this book, that, you know, you can try and apply it to anywhere, any region. The thing with All the Rain That Promises and More is it is a little bit ancient in the science world, because the science world in mycology, names are changing, new science is coming out, things like that. This is, let's see, I can't even tell. I think this print was in 1990, but I think it was like last updated in 85 or something like that. So you will see names in here, specifically the scientific names in here that are no longer applicable. However, the mushrooms themselves don't change. So you'll still be able to ID stuff out of here. It's a really great pocket guide. It just has some of the key edible things, key interesting things, key toxic things, and it's just fun. David Aurora is kind of like, when I write about mushrooms, when I put together posts or blogs or something about mushrooms, he's definitely someone that I kind of reach for inspiration. He makes it fun, he makes it lighthearted. He says stuff in here like little brown mushrooms, like why the heck? Just, if you really want to get into the science, sure, try and identify the little brown mushrooms, but in the end, you know what, you're end up frustrated. So unless you have a microscope in a lab, you know what, just admire them instead, you know, that kind of stuff. So David Aurora is awesome. And yes, All the Rain Promises and More. Nice little field guide.
A couple of people would like to know, where can you find other mushroom people, mushroom foragers?
Yes, other mushroom people, other mushroom foragers. It's so funny. The more and more I hang out with mushroom people, the more and more I realize that we're all like pretty introverted and we like to keep to ourselves. And that's one reason why it's hard to find other mushroom people. Also, mushroom people like to keep their mushroom spots secret. So that's another reason why it's hard to hang out with other mushroom people. The first step to do is go on to North America Mycological Association's website. So NAMA, North American Mycological Association's website. This is for North America, and sorry if this question is coming from some other area. They will have a listing of all affiliated clubs across North America. So that's a good place to start. You can see if there's an affiliated club near you. The closest club near me is an hour and a half away. But that, for me, for a once a month meeting,
or to be plugged into, to know people to hang out with, it's worth it to still be part of the club. Most of these clubs, it's only $30 a year to join. Most clubs also, it's just free to attend the meetings. You don't have to be a member to attend the meetings. You can just attend them and go. But then once you're a member, you get, you know, access to their newsletter, access to field trips that they're doing, access to classes that they're offering. What is that? Oh, a dog. A dog. So that's the first thing. The other thing is there are going to be a lot of clubs that aren't necessarily affiliated with NEMA that are all over. So doing a Google search for like Mushroom Club or Mycological Club is great. There are colleges that have, you know, groups of people that are going out once a week on walks just around the wooded areas in their campuses. There are groups of people that have just kind of gathered just by social media. That's how I met most of my friends. And let's see, sometimes it does take you just being the person who pick like a local city park somewhere really public and just saying, I'm going to meet here on this day. It's just for fun. We're going to see what we can find. We're going to take pictures. You don't have to be like educating people per se. You don't have to be organizing anything. Just saying this is the day, I'm going to do it, blast it out on your social media. The fact that you're here on YouTube asking that question means that maybe you're on other social media platforms as well. Honestly, if you guys follow me like on Instagram, you'll see that this last year I've had quite a few like mushroom peep gatherings. And these have not been me doing this. Honestly, this started because my friend Travis he's like, we see our mushroom friends during, you know, because they're part of the Mycological Association, we see them during mushroom season, but then we don't see each other outside of that. And he said, let's change that. Let's go camping this summer. I said, okay. And we picked a date and we just like told people. And then there was like 20, 25 people there. Oh, there's a train in the background. And then when we were out camping, one of the other guys, and my friend Adam, was like, hey, I have a cabin out in the woods. We should get together in October. And we're like, okay. So we just told people and it kind of spread. And there are people who are like mushroom expert level. And there are people who are like, I just met you. What is this weird thing you are doing? Now they're totally hooked on mushrooms. And that's how that happened. It was just, let's hang out. We like mushrooms. Go from there. But I understand it can be really hard and intimidating. And I am just thankful that I have these mushroom friends who are a little more geared towards inviting people and more social than I am, because otherwise maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Edgar says hello from Northwest Tillamook, Oregon.
Hi,
Say hi,
Tillamook.
Edgar.
Hi, Edgar from Tillamook, Oregon.
What kind of mushrooms do you recommend for drying?
Okay.
Is there a way to best tell if they're ready to harvest for drying, if there's any difference?
Okay, best mushrooms for drying. Oh man, there's lots.
Or just personals, maybe.
Yeah, okay, so mushrooms that I really like to dry, porcini, morels. Those are probably the two that I dry most often. Goodness, I know there's more. I know there's more than that. So harvesting and knowing that they're good to dry. So yeah, if you're harvesting and it has been raining a lot and they feel waterlogged, you're gonna have to do some preliminary drying, like out on your counter or even like with a towel. It's really easy for mushrooms quality to start to degrade without you knowing it. And it doesn't mean it's gonna be bad to eat. That's the thing, it's not gonna be bad to eat. Like a mushroom can be in your fridge and be perfectly fine to eat 3 days later, but it actually might not be good to dry any longer. So you actually have to get to the drying process really fast. So if you're going to be drying, it's like you bring your mushrooms home, you start it right away. Because even overnight on the counter, there can be kind of putrefaction or decomposition that's already happening within the mushroom, and they won't dry and they won't hold. They will dry, that's what I'm saying. They will dry, but they won't dry as well. Like I don't know if you've ever had this experience with morels, is pretty common, where sometimes you'll dry a morel and it holds its shape pretty well. It doesn't shrink up very much. It stays large, and then you'll do another batch and they all end up really tiny and like compact and wrinkly. That's because one maybe had more water on it to start off, it wasn't dried off, or maybe had sat, you know, in your car for too long and had already started to decompose. So as it's drying, that structure integrity doesn't hold. And then, I mean, you can rehydrate them and still use them, but it's just not as much mushroom left anymore. If that makes sense. Candy caps, so definitely.
Also ask good candy cap recipes, so you could add that in there.
Okay, so candy caps, definitely, that's another one. Yes, dry them, because that's how they get their flavor and their yummy scent. So candy caps, though, I would recommend, if you have a dehydrator, that's fine for candy caps, but do it like lowest temperature as you can. Candy caps, air drying them in just a well-ventilated room with maybe a fan in front of them works really well. There's been, I don't know if the science proves this or not, but just in the mushroom community as we chat, a slow dry with your candy caps is usually best for producing stronger aroma of that maple syrup flavor and aroma. So slow drying them. And recipes for that. I mean, you're classic, you can candy cap cookies. I'm trying to think of all the ways I've had it. I really enjoyed candy cap bread pudding. Someone did a candy cap bread pudding and it was really good. Candy cap ice cream, kind of a classic. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think.
Donut glaze.
What's that?
Donut glaze.
Oh, the donuts, yes. Haley, if you're still here, I don't know if you're here, my friend Haley made candy cap glazed donuts, which were incredible. So that's fun. Those are good ways. I'm trying to think of something creative right now, and I definitely cannot think of anything creative. You guys, I don't know if you've caught on to this. I'm not the most creative person when it comes to cooking. I love it to keep it simple, especially with mushrooms. So any of my creative things that I have gained, it's from other people. It's from other people. Okay, so Chad Hyatt, I did have, if anybody in the mushroom cooking world, you might know Chad Hyatt. He's from California. He just came out with a new cookbook last year. The Forager's Kitchen Chef something mushroom, I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, in that he has a recipe for candy cap sausage. So you get kind of that mapley syrup blend with the sausage. And he picked me up from the airport when I went to Santa Cruz last year, or 2 years ago, and his whole car smelled like mapley sausage. It was nice.
Do you ever hunt for or use medicinal mushrooms?
Do I ever hunt for and use for medicinal mushrooms? Yes. I don't. I would say it's my hunt for medicinal mushrooms is more of by happenstance. And I'm in a walk through the woods and I see some turkey tail or I see some reishi, and if it's in good condition, I will harvest it. I don't often go out just with the intention to harvest medicinal mushrooms. I do use them. I use them, again, very simply. What I usually do is a drying of the mushroom and using them in teas. I will sometimes make tinctures with them, you know, just with like kind of an alcohol-based extraction, very simple. So yes, outside of that, I have used some medicinal mushroom supplements on and off. But never anything consistent and nothing that I would say I can shout out and recommend something, if that makes sense. Can you dry shaggy mane? No. Oh, well, maybe. I don't know how that would work. They degrade so fast that I don't think you can dry them without them turning into a black, goopy, inky mess.
Someone wants to know about dried chanterelles?
Dry chanterelles, okay, so I know people who do it and they're like, oh, it's great. Oh, it's fine. Oh, I really struggle to ever give out that information to say to dry your chanterelles. I would say don't do it. Just the integrity of the chanterelle is different. Their water absorption is, you know, they have a lot of water content, like most mushrooms, but just a lot. So often when you dry them and then rehydrate them, they turn really tough and chewy, and they lose that kind of that fruity aroma and flavor that they naturally have. So I would recommend not. What I would do is I would do a dry saute, heat them up, let their water release, maybe add a little bit of oil, salt, or whatever, and then freezing them. I feel like I get to have fresh chanterelles year round because of that freezing method. You pull them out of the freezer, pop it into a pan, and all of a sudden the house smells like you just, you know, walked in from a day of foraging with fresh chanterelles. It's awesome.
Have you ever come across paths with Sasquatch? Well, that
Have
might
I?
be for me, but
Is this question for my brother or me? Have I ever come across paths with Sasquatch? I have not. But I'm not always the most quiet, because a lot of times I have my kids with me. We have, though, gone on Sasquatch walks on this one particular trail that has a large wooden Sasquatch hidden on it. And that is fun because I think my kids think it's real.
and there's so many questions. We're gonna miss so many.
Okay, keep feeding them to me.
There's so many hellos too.
Hi, everybody. Hi, people who are saying hi. I guess I should look too. Oh my gosh, it looks like 100 things have come in since.
Yeah.
Oh, are some lobster mushrooms toxic? Not that we know of, no. I always feel weird answering this question because it's like there's a certain aspect of unknown when it comes to mushrooms and fungi. And I do actually sometimes get frustrated when people are so determined that they have the right answer on something pertaining to a mushroom. So with the lobster mushroom, for those of you who don't know, a lobster mushroom is Hypomyces lactiflorum. And a Hypomyces is a parasitic fungi that actually attacks another mushroom and turns it into the lobster mushroom. The lobster mushroom is a highly sought after edible and actually has a really, really long history of being an edible mushroom. It primarily parasitizes Russula and Lactarius species, depending on where you are. This last fall, in my area, there were some, I don't know how official these reports are, but of finding Hypomyces lactiflorum on chanterelles, a few. And before, I know that there was someone was doing a huge research project on that in particular, because there's this fear of, is the Hypomyces lactiflorum going to parasitize, say, a toxic mushroom, and we not know it, we eat it, and whoops, there you go. But here's a few things. As far as we know, in the research that has been done, it parasitizes mushrooms that are safe to eat before they've been parasitized. And once they are parasitized and are a lobster mushroom, they are safe to eat. And the other thing is, because there's a very long history of this mushroom being eaten all around the world, not just in, you know, Pacific Northwest or East Coast or, you know, England, you know, areas that are popular for mushroom foraging, but all around the world, lobster mushrooms have been eaten for a long time, and there are minimal reports of it causing any problems outside of potential allergic reactions, which you can have with any food or any mushroom. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
It's impossible to get sand out of Morels. What's your cleaning method for Morels?
Sand out of Morels, I know. And then you make a meal and it's like gritty. So the best you can do, clean as much as you can before you put it in your basket. Get your knife, get your brush, trim it up, brush as much as you can. And sometimes if you're hunting, I'm guessing in like a burn area, this is especially like the sand and the grit from all the ash that's in a burn site, it's especially hard for this. So what I would recommend is, if you do have a basket that is fairly open, maybe put like a thin like towel to line it, so that sand isn't getting whipped into your basket. Clean the mushrooms really well and then cover them. And keep that as clean as possible, because a lot of the grit and stuff is getting passed on when you set your basket down, when the wind blows stuff in, or when one mushroom was dirty, it's like contaminates all the other mushrooms. So doing that is really imperative in the beginning. Then once you get home, morels are perfectly fine to be soaked in some water. It's not going to ruin the integrity, flavor, or structure of the mushroom. So get your hands in there, shake them up as best you can. Sometimes slicing them lengthwise is really what you need to do. I know a lot of people like to keep their morels whole because they're just prettier that way. But even, you know, brushwork in the water to rinse it off, doing multiple rinses, strainer and water running over them. I know, it's rough.
Luke
Do what you
says
can.
that Hostettler says Jesse still has trauma from my Sasquatch impersonation. I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
Did I do one?
Yes. No, I don't know if it was your Sasquatch impersonation. Hi, Luke. Welcome to the show. So Luke is somebody that my
He said
brother and
5
I
minutes ago.
grew up with, if you're still here.
This was recent though.
But my mention of Sasquatch earlier is this trail I referenced that I brought my boys on is a trail that my family has hiked for years. Luke
that what it was?
and Jesse are brothers, and they're the same age as our younger sisters, so they're about 6-7 years younger than us. And us being the older kids, decided we were gonna take the younger kids out on this walk, and we really hyped up the Sasquatch thing, the Bigfoot thing. Like the kids had like sticks in their hands and were swinging them around, and well, I guess we were still kids at the time, but the littlest kids, I think they were like 4 or 5 years old, probably range. We were like, oh, careful with the sticks because Sasquatch might think that you're gonna like hit him, so you need to be really nice with the sticks. Okay, and so all the kids got rid of the sticks. They didn't want to hurt Sasquatch. They were so afraid. And we're like, we made them sing songs. We're like, sing some songs. You might like that. So they would like sing songs. And then they were picking salmon berries, and they're like, oh, we're gonna pick these and give them to Bigfoot. And then we knew that us older kids, we knew where this thing was, this big wooden statue hidden in the woods. And so all of a sudden we come around the corner and we go, there it is, like really loud. And it was like all the little kids in unison immediately screamed giant alligator tears out of their eyes, running down the trail, just terrified out of their wits. They were so excited too. They were going to be friends with Bigfoot. They were going to give him snacks. And we kind of ruined it. I do feel bad. I did feel really bad. I felt bad in the moment, but yep. Sorry, Jesse. Luke, please tell Jesse we are sorry that he's traumatized from that experience. Okay, what else? What else? What mushrooms would you cultivate in your garden? Oh man, if you haven't heard of the garden giant, or it's called the wine cap sometimes, it's a Stropharia species, super easy to grow in your garden. You just put it in there with some mulch. It's a fantastic mushroom. It's kind of reminds me of something like a portobello a little bit with more flavor to it. It's a great one to grow in your garden.
I like this question.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on the trend of mushroom foraging and the effects more people in the forest and being responsible in harvesting?
Yeah.
Repeat some of that so they...
So thoughts on the popularization of mushroom foraging?
And more people
in the woods and being responsible. Okay. Like anything, it's a double-edged sword. Education is key, I think, when it comes to that. So for me as an educator, it's my responsibility to educate people how to do that well. Because if that's not happening, then it will be done poorly. And yeah, so I definitely have seen a surge in popularity with mushroom foraging over the last couple of years. There are places that I used to forage that were, you know, like maybe only a few local people knew about, but now regularly I drive past and I never stop because there's multiple cars parked there. So there's definitely more people out, more people doing this. As far as the effects on the mushroom population, right now we're at a place where I don't feel like it's going to have any effects of that. Mushrooms are very resilient because their underground network, their mycelium, is going to be there as long as
We're not raking.
you know, as long as we're not, raking up the ground. And if you're harvesting, if people are personally harvesting, you know, what they're going to only need, as more and more people go out, I think it's not going to be a whole lot of a problem. The problem a little more is if there are only specific areas that are maybe being hit and over harvested and trash. people leaving trash, people trashing areas. I don't know if this totally speaks to the question, but I find really high value in the learning curve. And I think this speaks to just being outdoors in general, and a lot of like thrill seekers and waterfall hunters and beautiful vista seekers and mushroom foraging, herbal, foraging. If you don't engage in the learning curve, then the ability to do these things well for the environment and do these things well for yourself and do these things to cultivate respect and reciprocity with the land, it's going to be nearly impossible. You have to start at ground zero. Yeah, teach your kids. Yeah.
Friends that act like kids.
Teach your friends that act like kids. Thank you. But if it's something where people see that this is a trend, especially with online and social media, and they just go out and try and do the thing in a day without having that learning curve, then that's where we're going to get into trouble, because it's not resource extraction. You're not engaging in resource. That's not what it should be. And I think sometimes when I educate people, they do get frustrated that sometimes I don't give them a direct answer. I don't say, yes, that is edible, or I don't say, yes, that is a good spot to be. I ask questions in return. I give way too long of answers, but it is because that learning curve needs to happen. You're not going to go climb a mountain in a day. You have to train for it. You have to gain a skill set. And so I think having people go through that process, and yes, this means not making it easy necessarily for them to find a location. That's totally fine. I want to give resources for people to learn from and be educational as much as they are to help them find edible mushrooms. Yeah, it's tough. There are things that I do in order to, what I would say, have a clear conscience in the way that I educate and the way I even present myself online. Things that I don't talk about, so people don't know that I'm intentionally doing these things. Like, you'll probably never see, or very rarely see, a photo of a large haul on my Instagram page. You very rarely see well, pretty much that. You'll very rarely see location details, and you won't really see me talking sometimes up an edible mushroom, unless I'm also giving a good educational background on it as well. And those are things that I do intentionally because I don't want to exasperate, or whatever that means. Yeah.
We're well past an hour if you want to start winding down. But also, any favorite common mushrooms for cooking into sauces? Sounds like a yummy question.
Oh, any favorite mushrooms to cook into sauces? Oh. What's awesome is I feel like any mushroom is really good in a sauce. Besides a matsutake, I don't think I've ever had a matsutake sauce that's like a cream sauce. Not for matsutake. For like as far as like as a brothy kind of thing, matsutake is great. But porcini, morels, chanterelles, chicken of the woods. I'm saying all the most basic mushrooms.
But you want common ones.
But yeah, those common ones are great, and because so everyone is going to have a richer flavor profile, right? So if it's a cream sauce with porcini, it's going to have a deep, earthy, nutty flavor. If it's going to be a cream sauce with a chanterelle, it's going to be light, sweet, creamy flavor. If it's with the morel, you're going to almost get more of that smoky, rich, mushroomy flavor to it. So it's like mushrooms and cream sauce just go together. So those ones are great. There we go. What else? Okay. Do you eat witch's butter? You can. I have, but I don't regularly.
Do you want to give a heads up for just a couple more questions, or do you want to keep going for a while? It's up to you. It's your feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. We're at it over an hour now. I don't know if I'm going to wind it down yet or not, but no hard feelings if you want to leave. Let's answer more questions. We'll see where this goes. Okay. Ooh. Have I joined the Lichens, Mosses, and Ferns and Fungi Facebook group? The pics are amazing.
I think I went on.
Thank you. I think my brother is on that one. I kind of don't exist on Facebook. I did create a Facebook page for myself a couple months ago, just so I could be on some invited to some events and get the event details. That's honestly why I did it. I don't utilize Facebook. I've heard really amazing things about some of the mushroom Facebook pages. So that sounds like an awesome one. Thank you.
How about truffles? Do you even bother looking for them?
How about truffles? Do I even bother looking for them? Is that it?
And if so,
And
are
if
there
so?
any telltale signs to look for if you don't have a sniffing dog?
If you don't have a sniffing dog. Okay, so for me personally, I've never been a truffle hunter. I have come across them by accident. My brother found a few when doing some landscaping stuff in the yard this year, which was cool. So I guess, no, I don't hunt for them, but here are a few things. Yeah, if you don't have a dog, just use really good caution and ethics if you can. If you are in an area and you know that the tree association is right for the truffles that you have in your area and you're seeing like little rodent dig spots, that's a good sign that it's a ripe truffle. So dig into a spot like that. Now, if you are in an area, you know that they have truffles because the tree association and someone told you there's truffles there, please don't go in and just rake up an area. It's not going to be good for the fungal network that's under the ground. And also the truffles that you're going to be harvesting there are probably not going to be fully ripe. So you want to find good ones, right? If you're going to go through the effort of truffles, you want to find the good ones. But if you're in the Pacific Northwest, we have fantastic truffles here locally, and many people who make truffle products. Tempest truffles. There you go, Tempest truffles. So that's all. I don't have much truffle info.
Good mushrooms for mushroom and berry combos. This person says they tried morel and mulberry sauce on steak. That was great.
Oh, mushroom and berry combinations. You know, that's not something I've thought of too much. Oh, so they mentioned, what was it, mulberry and morels? Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing. Yeah, that sounds really good. I have done some combinations with chanterelles and some stone fruits. So things like peaches and apricots and stuff. Kind of doing a similar kind of a sauce kind of idea with that. The sweetness in the chanterelle and mixing it with some of those kind of like those peachy apricot flavors is really good. It's not a berry, but
on the west of Washington near the Sound.
I don't get up to the Sound very much. I have, like, I'm trying to think, once in all my mushroom hunting days have I been up there. I don't even live that far. But the thing is, when the peak season is on, I'm here. I don't want to leave here. It's so good here that it's really hard to travel, you know, like 4 hours and go somewhere else. So no, I have not. I have a lot of friends up there. I have friends with property up there. I have invitations to go up there. And I need to take advantage of those because it's gorgeous. And the biodiversity is enough different than where I live, just, you know, 4 hours away, that I would end up seeing things that I don't see here, which would be pretty cool.
This guy has wild hogs in his cooking grounds in the truffle area, but also thinks they're taking the other mushrooms. Is that possible or likely?
Other animals or wild hogs taking other mushrooms? Yeah, definitely. That can happen. I do know here deer and elk with the porcini, with matsutake, animals will eat them. Yep. Which is actually kind of cool because sometimes you can see like squirrel little marks, little teeth in the top of mushroom caps, or even they'll see, which elk or deer, I don't know, like, but teeth marks like as they've bit these mushrooms. It's pretty awesome.
Aurora, as in our Aurora.
Aurora
is asking,
says,
have you ever made mushroom hot chocolate?
Hi Aurora. So this is another one of my sisters. I have a lot of sisters. She asked if I've ever made mushroom hot chocolate. Yes, I have. Most of the mushrooms that are used to make mushroom hot chocolates are pretty bitter. So mixing them with some hot chocolate or some cocoa is actually a really great combination. I myself am not a sweet chocolate kind of person, so I really like the dark chocolate bitter kind of stuff. Thanks, Aurora.
Someone says at the end, are you giving up one secret spot for us to forage porcini? Stick around, maybe you'll find out.
Oh, you're asking if I will give one secret spot to forage porcini. Stick around, see if I do. Let's see. Let me think if I have any good secret porcini spots. Would this be spring porcini or would this be fall porcini? Spring. Let me think about that.
The same person who talked about Olympia said come up there soon.
Who is it?
Alder Enoch?
Oh, hi, Alder Enoch. We've interacted, I think, a little bit, but I don't know you. I didn't know that's where you lived. Cool.
Let's see. I don't have any other at the moment.
Okay, let me take a look. Oh my goodness. So the Facebook thing, I said I don't have a Facebook, or I just got one. My sister Mackenzie is calling me out and she said, tell the truth. You are so bad at Facebook that you have two. It is true. I am so bad at Facebook. I didn't realize that I accidentally made two of them. So, whoops.
Best comment of the day. Your brother is awesome. Very supportive.
Your brother is awesome. Yes, he is. He is. So a little about my brother.
I showed her something.
Okay, good. So honestly, like in case you guys don't know, my brother is a Hollywood man. That's how I like to refer to him as. He's worked on major feature films out of Hollywood, out of other places. He has celebrity phone numbers in his phone. He talks to major producers when he's working on his little projects for Insight. But he decides, you know what, I like to hang in the woods with my dorky sister and film about mushrooms. So this is like way below his pay grade.
Sisters are never below pay grade.
So this is really fun for us to get to do this together, and I do appreciate his expertise because, you know what, instead of filming famous actors, he's filming Yellow Eleanor.
I like this one. What map software do you use for locating new areas to go?
Oh, I don't use a map software for locating new areas. I like paper maps. I really love the Nat Geo maps a lot. I use a lot of Google Earth actually. So a combination of Google Earth and paper maps, Nat Geo maps in particular, is what I use.
Maps
Oh,
for
Onyx.
private property.
Yeah, Onyx maps. I haven't got it yet, but my brother talks about it a lot because it shows private property lines, which can be really hard to differentiate when you're getting into those national forest boundaries, but it's like small towns are there. So yeah, that one is also very good. Yes, that was my answer to that. Do I have one of the Amadou hats that Paul Stamets wears? I don't have an Amadou hat.
Have you featured on any podcasts, and are there any mushroom podcasts you recommend?
Wait, who's asking that? I want to know who's asking that.
Daniel Bettridge.
Oh, okay.
Reiterate the question.
So have I been on any podcasts? And are there any good mushroom podcasts? Is that the question kind of? Okay, so I have been on some podcasts. They're not mushroom related though. But we do talk about things I find interesting is the name of the podcast. I was on that. I did talk about mushroom foraging, but it's not like a mushroom or foraging related podcast. It's a guy who does talk about things he finds interesting. That's one of those things. I was used as a reference in Fungi Town podcast, but I've never been on it. So Fungi Town, however you want to say fungi, whatever, Fungi Town. That's a cool podcast about mushrooms. A new one, Welcome to Mushroom Hour. It's so fun. And I am scheduled to record, or we are working on scheduling to record me going on to that podcast, talk about mushrooms. should be pretty fun. So welcome to Mushroom Hour, pretty cool. Yes, I should be on more podcasts. I would love to be on more podcasts, even just like outdoor or educational type things, because I talk a lot. Thanks, Zach.
Have you ever gotten in... You don't want to answer that question. Have you gotten in trouble being in an area where you weren't supposed to be? Have you ever gotten lost? Well, there's a good one. Or have you a story about either of those things? We want to do a video about lost.
We do want to do a video about getting lost. Yes, I have gotten in trouble for being in an area I wasn't supposed to. I'll just be honest, especially if this person is local, you probably know the story. Yeah, okay, so let me just be real. So I try to the best of my ability to make sure where I am going you're allowed to be. And so there's this area that I know it is privately owned, but it's used for recreation, a lot of bikers, hikers, and downhill skiers and stuff like that. So there are fine people going on using it, and mushroom hunting is something that a lot of people do on this very big piece of land. And there are even signs kind of at the trailhead portion of it of just like free access, you can come and be here. Anyways, I didn't do my due diligence and I didn't call the property owner to ask permission because I was going to go on with other people. And I went on with other people. And I got a phone call after that of great disappointment of the property owner. And honestly, all he wanted was just, you know, that respect of me calling ahead of time. And I don't know why I didn't think of that. Normally that's something that is like right on my radar and making sure I'm doing those things, and I didn't do it that time. And I'm bummed out about that, and a good lesson learned. Anyways, it was a good conversation, and he was, you know, concerned more for like safety, liability kind of thing, you know. So anyways, so yes, I have gotten in trouble for being in this spot that I shouldn't have, in a way not knowing that I wasn't supposed to be doing that, but you know, anyways, a lesson of just respecting those kinds of things. And I have been lost once, and never overnight, and it was enough for me to start taking those kinds of things very seriously. My brother and I have been talking about and would really like to put together an episode about, you know, just what happens if you get lost, what do you do, what are the best practices in order to not get lost, and especially when it comes to mushroom hunting in particular. I think there's a lot of great resources out there that talk about, you know, when you're hiking in the woods or when you're camping in the woods, but mushroom hunters, we have a very special superpower, and that is staring directly at the ground and not looking at the things around you. And which can really cater to getting lost in a very special way compared to other folks. So we want to do a video with that. We would actually really love if we could get sponsored by Garmin to do this video. Was I allowed to say that?
Sure, okay.
Because we like Garmin and we use that, so would be
like
cool.
Someone else, who knows?
Or maybe we like someone else if you want to send us something else that's better than that for us to try.
Joseph, who asked the questions about the trespassing, I didn't mean to bring up a touchy story. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Oh no, don't worry about asking. That's the real thing though. That's the thing. Like, I think we need to share about that more often. You know, sometimes you make boo-boos and you gotta own up to it and be like, oh, I learned from that or whatever. So no worries.
Are you going to do another Q&A?
I would love to do another Q&A. I think it'd be fun. Maybe pick out some themes with the Q&A, like a themed Q&A about maybe a certain topic or whatever, a certain set of topics, and you guys could even come prepared, and I could come prepared to answer certain things. I think that would be really fun.
Mountain lions and bears?
Am I worried about mountain lions and bears? Bears, no. I've come across a lot of bears, and as soon as they notice that there are humans around, they scurry on their way. That's in Washington.
Where we are.
Oh, I really do need to clarify that. Okay, so that's for me here. I've heard some stories, especially a particular friend in New Jersey, where it's like, bears walk right on up to you and sniff you in the nose, and you have to bop them in the nose with your fishing pole and tell them to go away. I think I'm remembering that story right. Anyhow, so here for me in Washington, Oregon, I'm not afraid of bears because bears are still afraid of people around here, and they go.
Washington does have grizzlies.
Yeah, so Eastern Washington does have some grizzlies, and that's a situation where you do have to be more delicate, be aware of where they are, carry bear spray. As far as cougars go, they do make me a little uneasy. They're just so stealthy, that's the thing. There have been some areas in particular that warnings have gone out because of overpopulations in certain areas. So I just have to make wise choices, like if I'm with my kids, I'm not going to go to those spots and let my kids run around. So we'll just go to a different spot. Overall, I'm not someone who walks around feeling afraid of it because I've had enough experience out here to know that the animals just leave you alone if you leave them alone. That's pretty rare for anything to happen.
Someone named Leilani has taken a class with you. Said, how do you find new spots
I remember
for
you.
foraging? I'm trying to find new spots in Southern California, but it's been tough.
Oh yeah, that's right. Southern California would be tough. How do I find new spots? Okay, so here's a little bit of my process of what I do sometimes. So, gosh, I can answer this 100 ways. If I have like an entire day where I can commit to going to look for new spots, I prep ahead of time. So I'll get out my paper maps because I love them. I like to look at the topo lines so I get to see like where are the roads, where are the steep spots, and where do the streams come together? Are there any flat grounds where streams come together? And I mark all of these spots on the map and kind of try and do a route that I can go and pop in and explore. And you can do this any time of year. You don't have to do it during peak mushroom season, that's the thing. And then I get on Google Earth and I double check those spots, right? Very special person taught me that this is important because you get on Google Earth and you realize, oh, half the spots I have circled are now logged. You know, gotta check on that. So you go through and you just be ready for that. And also even looking up alternate routes, because what if a road is washed out, or what if there's a gate on a road, those kinds of things, doing what kind of research you can ahead of time. That way you make use of that day and you can go and you just stop, look in, you take note, what kind of trees are growing here, what is the understory going on, if this is going on right now, this time of year, what might be happening, you know, in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, those kinds of things. And you visit these spots and you can kind of get a good gauge of spots that you can go at during peak mushroom season. So that's one really great way to look for good, really like solid mushroom spots. I mean, you can find mushrooms anywhere, so there's also the just get out and go anywhere kind of thing. But, you know, to dedicate a day to doing that could really benefit you. And I would also say, in conjunction to that, if on your route there are popular hiking spots, it's actually really smart ideas to mark those popular hiking spots and just maybe half a mile before or after or somewhere down the road, if there's a pullout that you can park nearby but not be on that trail, those are always just really sweet spots because most people aren't going to like be pulling over there. They're all going to that trail. So that's a little tip.
This person's eating grapes and cheese. What's your favorite cheese?
Hi, person eating grapes and cheese. I
That's a funny question for you.
I don't eat cheese. When I used to eat cheese, I would say pepper jack was my favorite, or smoked Gouda would maybe be my favorite. But I've never been a cheese person, and even before I stopped eating cheese, I would not put it on my sandwich.
But we did take a cheese making class.
We did make take a cheese making class together. That was pretty awesome. But it does really volatile things to my body, and I'm just not a fan of the dairy stuff in general. So as far as non-dairy cheeses, there's definitely nothing that's my favorite in that world.
I'm a fan. A good brie.
Oh yeah, Zach likes a good brie, that's for sure. Yes. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. Thank you, Joseph. This is a good question to follow up. Have you ever gotten in trouble before? I need to blow my nose. Hold on. Are there any mushroom doppelgangers across the continents or continental? Occasionally, I get asked to ID a mushroom from the UK. And even if it looks like something I'm familiar with, it makes me uncomfortable to do.
Windsurfers.
Windsurfers, if you can hear them hooting and howling. That's awesome.
He wiped out.
He wiped out. That's what he gets for whooping. Yes, there are so many mushroom doppelgangers out there, and I have a feeling you know the answer to this question, but it's just a really wise thing to bring up. So, yeah, absolutely. This is. I mean, with plants it can be pretty similar, but with mushrooms this is even stronger. And part of this, part of this whole mushrooms getting new names, you know, now we have genetics testing that's showing that, you know, what grows here is different than what grows there, but it's all been going under the same name. So yes, if you are living in one area and someone who's even in just a different bioregion than you, they may only live like maybe 100 miles away, but in a different bioregion, it could be a different species, which is a little overwhelming when you think about it, because there are here's a good example, the amethyst deceiver. It all went by the same Lactarius amistio, however you say that. See, Latin names. All of the mushrooms went under that name that looked, and they all looked identical. So of course they're all the same thing. That's what it was. You know, they had that name over in Europe, and then they come over to the United States, and it's the same, call it the same mushroom, and then they come to the West Coast, it looks the same, call it the same thing. And what that has done is there's this ripple effect of realizing what's in Europe is different than what's in North America, what's on the East Coast is different than what's on the West Coast, and what's on the East Coast and the West Coast is different than even what's maybe down in the Gulf states, right? So they can all look the same, but genetically they're actually different. And it is hard because not all of us are doing, you know, genetic research. So how do you tell? Sometimes there are a few little nuances that are slightly different. Sometimes the tree association can play a role in knowing the differences. Where here, you know, on the West Coast, a lot of things are conifer related, and over on the East Coast, there's going to be more hardwood related species. So yeah, lots of doppelgangers out there. They can look pretty much identical to each other. And this, let this be a word of caution too. So if somebody is asking you about a mushroom and it looks exactly like an edible mushroom that you have in your area, it would be wise to tell them, you know, it looks like this mushroom that I know of, but I don't know what else grows in your area that might look identical. Because they could have the same edible mushroom as you, but they could be surrounded by 2 or 3 other look-alike species to that mushroom, and it might either be toxic or be really gross. So yeah, continent to continent, even state to state or whatnot, there are a lot of doppelgangers out there, and it really is hard to keep up with the science and the names. Yep.
Here's an impossible one.
An impossible question.
When can I collect Morel mushrooms in Ireland?
Oh gosh, I don't know. So from what I know, I don't know anything about Ireland. I'm trying to think. So there's spring mushroom for pretty much anywhere. So I mentioned earlier, try and follow the same pattern. Is as the spring starts warming up and your nighttime temperatures are above freezing and your daytime temperatures are around 60 degrees, which is totally going to be different in Ireland, right? So this is, I'm using like Fahrenheit, I apologize. But just above freezing at night and around 60 degrees during the day. If you get that pattern for about 2 weeks, that's when the morels should start coming up. So follow that pattern. Stick your finger down into the soil a few inches if it still feels like frozen or frigid. Probably got to wait a little more. You stick your finger down in the soil and it's starting to feel a little more like room temperature or air temperature. You're getting to the good time of year.
I like this one from Kyle. Which mushroom were you most excited to discover in the past few years?
Ooh, oh man, I feel like so many. Oh,
You heard the question.
Okay, what mushroom was I most excited to come across in the last few years? Okay. So a couple of things. So I got to go to New York 2 summers ago for a mushroom event. And so for me, it was really amazing because I had seen all these pictures of these mushrooms for years, but never seen them in person. So to see things like a stinkhorn, to see things like the amount of bolete species that are over there, and then to realize that as I was looking at the pictures of the boletes here, I was imagining that the boletes over there were about the same size as ours, and theirs are like tiny. You know, just even that discovery was like, wow, my perception was totally off. Finding chanterelles on the East Coast was super exciting as well because the color vibrancy is just so different. I wasn't expecting that, so that was really cool. Leah's Mycena, it's that bright orange Mycena mushroom that has grows on dead or dying wood and in big clusters. I was really excited to see that one because we don't have that one here, and I like Mycena mushrooms. I was really excited to come across the Cruogamphus pseudoveni color, which if you've seen my episode where I come across something that I don't know what it is, it's in an episode anyways, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna put all this details down to figure out what this mushroom is. So it ended up being Cruogamphus pseudoveni color, and I never had seen it before. So anything that I had never seen before is just really fascinating to me. So that was one of them. What was fun about that is that I found it up in Washington, and then later in the year I went down to Santa Cruz for a mushroom event, and it was like all over the place there because it's a really common mushroom down there. So it's not exciting for any of the people down there, but I was still excited to see it. But just even looking at like Mushroom Observer and iNaturalist, realizing that it's just not as common up here. So it was normal for me to have not seen it and not come across it. And one other that was really exciting is a Cortinarius species, and I still am not definitive on what the current official name is. So Cortinarius something something. It's a red Cortinarius. The stem is red, the cap is red, the gills are totally red. It's not like kind of pinky red. It's like blood red. They're about this big. And I was hiking in a wilderness area up in Washington, and I had only seen one of these ever before. And this last summer, this is really cool kind of subalpine environment, and I walked into like kind of a little meadowy type area, and it was just like bursting with these bright red, or deep but bright red Cortinarius mushrooms. That was so much fun.
People keep saying, can you hit the whoa? I don't know what that means.
Hit the whoa?
The portobello mushrooms want you to hit the whoa. What?
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Someone explain.
Someone explain what hit the whoa means.
Is that a bear behind you? Yes. Colorful bear.
Windsurfers. Hit the whoa?
Well, while someone explain it to us.
Someone explain it to us.
You can answer that question from Royal about how you prepare specimens for your local herbarium.
Herbarium. Oh, I don't see that question, but that's a great question.
Assuming you send them unknowns for ID, how do you prepare them? And if you don't, how would you anyhow?
Okay.
It's a dance move. The whoa.
You guys, I'm so not cool.
Can someone share a link at some point? We'll go check out the whoa.
We'll
later.
check out what the whoa is. I have no idea.
Anyway, the question's good.
I'm Dorky, mushroom nerd queen. I don't dance. Okay, so specimens, if you want to send them into herbariums.
Sorry, keep going.
If you want to submit them to herbariums. So, sure, yeah, look it up. Now, different herbariums or fungariums might have slightly different rules, but here's just the basics of it. You want to, while you're out in the field, get photos of the mushroom as it is before it's plucked. You get mushroom or photos of the mushroom from every angle. You need to make sure you unearth the entire mushroom because you need to get all the parts that are even buried, right? And you want to collect actually quite a few of the specimens. So I don't remember the ratio now, but like even collecting like 4 or 5 is a good idea, especially if they're smaller. And getting pictures while they're fresh, taking notes. Take notes of any nearby plants, trees, anything you might be associated with, any other mushrooms that might be growing nearby. And that's what you do preliminary there out in the field. Then you're gonna wanna do a spore print if you can, which is helpful. But then you're gonna want to dry the mushrooms and dehydrate them. So you wanna get them basically in a stable state, and drying them is gonna be the best option for that. And as long as you have those components, that's all you really need in order to submit them to herbarium. Now, if you are wanting to kind of take it in a level up, you can join different projects. There are projects going on around the world where they will send you supplies and they can you just distracted me. Sorry, he's dancing back there now.
I know what they're talking about. It's this. You have to look it up and do it for them.
Oh my gosh, I'm not doing it. Okay, so if you, I'm trying to think of the name. Now you're so distracting me with your really weird dance moves. The Microflora Project. There we are. Microflora Project. Everybody write this down. Everybody write this down. You are now going to become citizen scientists. Community scientists. All right, Microflora Project. They have projects going on all over the place right now, and where they are either looking for specific species that you can help find, or they're just looking for a good like biodiversity of what an area has, so submitting any kind of thing. And they have really great rules and just how-tos of those steps and which herbariums or fungariums to submit specimens to, or if you become part of a project in depth, they can send you supplies, and they can even send you like the tubes and voucher numbers. So to voucher a specimen, you get a number assigned to that specimen. You take pictures of the specimen with that number, you dry the specimen with that number, you ship the specimen with that number, and you know, participate in these projects. You can start a project yourself. And if you're near a mushroom club or mushroom society, if they want to join you in creating a project, it's a great way to do like a community sciencing with a group of people, because sometimes if you need to pick a simple project because you can't like pick an entire state and find all the mushrooms, trust me. But anyways, they're a great resource. Microflora Project is really fantastic, and I have a couple projects that I'm thinking I would love to start, maybe in conjunction with some of the local mushroom clubs as well. One in particular that I would love is there's this piece of old growth that's near here, and it is in danger of being logged. So I thought if I could get a research project going on in the area, it can maybe help bring some insight of why we need to keep that area saved, and also just bring awareness of this being a valuable piece of property for research too. So there you go. There's a big long answer for that.
You gotta look up the woe because everyone's asking.
I gotta look up the woe.
Question, look it up. If I were to hit the woe with a mushroom, which one would be the best? From my knowledge, it would be the Spring King. We should let them know that for the steering wheel. You can tell me you're looking it up. You're getting so many questions.
On the, okay. This is the weirdest thing.
It's this one. Like, have you ever seen it where like they're driving and they go like, they do like turn thing?
I think I've seen it, but I'm old. You guys realize also was homeschooled. I'm really nerdy. We spent the first 15 minutes talking about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and I'm old. I'm old. Okay. The woe dance. I don't see what they're doing. They're just dancing.
I used to be old, but then I learned to woe.
You used to be old and then you learned to woe? That's hilarious. I don't see anybody woeing. I just see them dancing.
Here, I'm gonna let you answer this question.
Here, I clicked
There's
on a
some good
video. So,
questions. What
okay.
month and week
What
is
month
best
and week?
to forage in Washington State for matsutake, porcini, and porcini, I guess?
Oh yeah.
Try to
Okay.
find this
So
right.
I would say October would be the best, and the first week of October, if you want to get more specific. If we had some good rains early September, first week of October will be really good.
Trevor's trying to teach you the woe.
No,
I
no.
don't know if that's why.
Hold on. What? I am answering the phone. I'm on a live stream and I've answered the phone. I am still doing it.
Does he know the woe?
Do you know the woe? I thought you were calling to teach me how to do the woe. No, not that. I hope. Okay, we're gonna go now. Bye. You know what he thought it was? Which actually did cross my mind. Okay, so I've been told, like, on a number of occasions that I look like Mayim Belik. How do you say her last name? She plays Amy Farrah Fowler in The Big Bang Theory, but she was also on Blossom as a kid. And so what crossed my mind when you guys were all saying, can you do the woe, is I thought you were referencing Blossom. See, this is old people stuff, and you know how that character in there is like, whoa, or whatever. That's what crossed my mind. Anyways, I feel really weird about this. Can we talk about mushrooms again? I don't know what to say though. Oh gosh, you guys. I don't have my questions. You have my phone. I'm really embarrassed. Oh, what other questions did I see in there? I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
Best resources for getting into LBM ID?
A little brown mushroom ID.
Oh, that's what they're good luck.
Any good resources for getting into that? Just your average field guide would be the best place to start, because they're going to have a number of them, but they're going to have the most common ones. So if you can get the most common ones down, then you can start getting into other things. It's really hard. Mushroomexpert.com is really great, a resource if nobody has ever gone to there. I don't know specifically on little brown mushrooms, but Michael Coe does a really good job of just having a diversity of things on there in general. Little brown mushrooms. If you've ever seen the Big Fat Book, it's David Aurora's other book, Not All the Rain That Promises. Oh, Mushrooms Demystified. It's like the Big Fat Bible of mushroom books. There are a lot of little brown mushrooms in there. I'm sure you'd have fun with.
Any favorite recipes for your Lactarius mushrooms?
Any favorite recipes for Lactarius mushrooms? Probably my favorite way that I've ever had it. It's not something that I harvest and collect myself. I don't care for them a whole lot. And I will also say the area I'm from, it's not a popular mushroom to eat. Like, it's an edible and some people collect it, but I know it's much more popular in other parts of the world. So the favorite way I have ever eaten it, someone else has prepared it for me, is just doing it pickled was one way, and then also salted. So you do like a salt brine with it, and then after that they made a hummus out of it. It was really good. I really liked the hummus. It was kind of different, you know? You don't think of making hummus with mushrooms. And I've had hummus made from salted mushrooms a couple of times now. I really like it.
Too many woe comments.
Too many woe comments. Jesus.
I mean, it seems to be like something like this.
Like you're driving?
Yeah. Something like.
Oh my gosh, nope, not doing it.
Just do it. There you go.
I have this is no way. I'm so
Now we keep
embarrassed.
moving on with our lives.
Woo, no!
So close, so unseen. Next time, the next Q&A.
Okay.
Like that, it won't
Yes.
be popular then, though.
It won't be popular then anymore. That's true. I'll have to like Google right beforehand most popular dance.
Let's see. Let's look
Whew.
good.
Cold. I need to bring up the questions again. I don't even know where they are anymore.
Do you know of any edibles in Central Florida? That's kind of a hard one.
What's that?
Central Florida edibles. Are you aware of any?
Yeah. first, you should get this book. It just came out a couple months ago. It's really new. So Mushrooms of the Gulf Coast States, and it's by the Bassett's and David Lewis, which are all fantastic old-timer mushroom people. Really great job with this book. So yeah, I could look through here for edibles. I don't know a ton offhand. I know just from what I've looked through this book, there's some great chicken of the wood species that are there. There's some great chanterelle, a lot of chanterelle species. So you're gonna get like your cinnabar chanterelles, which are the kind of the orange, or like, yeah, the orangey cinnamon colored ones. There are some like kind of hot, pinky, hot orange colored chanterelles. I don't know all the proper names for all of them over there, but you have a plethora of chanterelles over there. What other things are in that area that I have seen in here? I don't know. You could have some pretty cool puffballs. You do have some Hericium species over there as well. Lion's mane could be growing in the area. And there's a lot of different boletes, but I'm not familiar with the varieties that you have over there because it's like way more variety than we have over here. But yeah, if you want to get a good book for that area, Mushrooms of the Gulf States.
Someone who joined more recently is just curious what state we are in.
Oh,
we're in Ontario, Canada.
Okay. We are in Washington right now, looking over at Oregon, right over there, along the Columbia River currently.
Best music to listen to while mushroom hunting?
Oh, easy. Lord of the Rings soundtrack. I prefer Return of the King. That's pretty good. That also, and I will say, particularly the song The Scavenger from the Star Wars soundtrack. Which movie was that? What was the first one of the new ones? Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Force Awakens soundtrack, The Scavenger. I love that song. Enya. Also, one song I really love to listen to is, it's called Chanterelle. It's by a band named The Dip. It's not singing about chanterelles, it's just instrumental, but knowing that it's called chanterelles and it's like this fun, upbeat, funky music, it gets me pumped to go look for mushrooms.
Can you repeat the name of the Florida recommended book?
Yes, I can. Mushrooms of the Gulf Coast States.
They're asking me to come on and tell a story of us bonding together while foraging, but I can't think of one at the moment. That would be...
Us bonding.
Or just a story.
Of us foraging.
There's
Just
a book
us
on the
doing
look,
this.
They said do what you just did and then cross your arm. I don't know. That's it. That's all you're going to do.
That's my enthusiasm about it. Oh, yeah, you should come tell a story of us bonding over
What though?
mushrooms. I mean, us creating this channel together.
I don't know.
I think our trip to Portland was really fun and bonding.
I wouldn't tell a good story out of it. Most exciting mushroom you've come across in an urban setting?
In an urban setting.
We did come across, it wasn't exciting, but it was like just coming across all those amanitas was beautiful.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, you will find Amanita muscaria a lot in urban settings, and so it's just almost like you get to step into this fantastic little fantasy world right there in the city. So that's really cool. So those bright red mushrooms, I would say, I mean, that's common to see in urban settings, but there's something magical about it. I really like it. I have found some like landscape morels, in the city, which is fun just to see something like that.
She hit the whoa. I'm subscribing. You're good at the whoa. I appreciate you. You won the Nobel Peace Prize.
It's so awful. Stop mocking me!
Okay, how did the idea of your videos come about?
So for me, when I first started mushroom foraging, I've said this like 5 times, I was kind of alone in the process. I didn't have any mushroomy friends yet. So what do? You want to go to YouTube, right? You YouTube everything you want to learn about, and primarily everything that was on YouTube with mushrooms was more of like someone with their phone and you go around the woods with them, which is fun, like I enjoy that, but I wanted to see the mushroom. I wanted them to describe the mushroom. I wanted them to zoom in on the mushroom parts. You know what I mean? Like to confirm that what I saw and what I had looked like what they were seeing and what they had, and there was like none of that. And it was like a little bit of like, here, I found a chanterelle and woods. Okay, so the content was not very good. I would also say this was kind of like before the era of even like science communication in general. Science communication being like, you know, people taking sciencey things and breaking them down for the general public. That was just starting to become popular. So as I got onto Instagram and started to do those sort of things with what I was learning, and I kept thinking of like, I just want to recreate what I wish existed when I got mushroom foraging, you know, when I started mushroom foraging. And I think my brother, he moved back from Hollywood. He moved back home, and I think you mentioned it to me.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And I knew it was a good idea, and I knew it was something that I wanted to do, but I was nervous about it and if it would be good, or even if I would be any good at it, I wasn't sure. So we decided, well, let's just try it. And what we did is I'm gonna tell them about our first day of filming.
Okay, I was thinking about how awful you were.
Oh, he could share stories about how awful I was. Okay, yeah. But what we decided to do is, which we film very different now, we decided these are the 3 mushrooms that we want to film before we even went out in the woods, before we even scouted really. So it was like kind of the backwards how we do it now. Now we're like, we're gonna go into the woods and see what we can find, and that's what we will talk about with a little bit of prep, of course. Anyway, so it was one day and we got up super early, and I had like multiple changes of clothes in the car and information on the mushrooms that we were hoping we would find, some of which we did not find. And all of season 1, besides one video, all of season 1 was filmed in one day. Now you know, with clothing changes, and location changes, and trying to figure out, are we going to find the mushroom or are we not? Because we had no idea. We didn't know. And yes, I was very terrible in front of the camera. I have now since learned to slow down and show the mushroom and let him film the mushroom and maybe even be excited. We have learned though that it's really impossible for me to recreate my excitement when I first see a mushroom and how awful that is. So we keep things rolling a lot because he tries to capture me getting excited.
All the time,
yeah,
right?
my audio is actually constantly running. So that there is an episode once where it's just black and you just hear the audio, and then we come back in once the visual is there, because we want to get the genuine squeal and reaction out of me, because trust me, we've tried. Like even once in this one recent one we did, I was supposed to just like do this, like come over here, and I did it like 5 times and he's like, never mind. It was so bad. I'm not good at that.
Great question. What would be the best mushroom to stop the virus?
What would be the best mushroom? Okay, it is called
Best mushroom to stop the virus?
Best mushroom to stop the virus would be Isolinus quarantinii. Translated into English as isolate and quarantine. That's what's gonna stop the virus. No mushroom is gonna stop the virus from infecting your body. There will be mushrooms, however, that can help boost your immune system. Mushroom videos to lift your spirit. But the only thing we need to do to slow this curve down is to isolate and quarantine.
Dad says he once had a car that had mushrooms growing in the back seat.
Yes, he did. My dad says he once had a car that had mushrooms growing in the back seat.
What's your real name? Someone who doesn't know.
My real name is Rachel Zoller. Hi.
Let's see.
Rachel Zoller. I'm not Eleanor.
California, all the fallen oak trees are bare. Sudden oak death trees have no mushrooms. Does this microscopic fungus compete with mushrooms? It's hard to find any. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I didn't quite.
That's okay, you don't.
But no, I just want to say they're talking about sudden oak death and no mushrooms growing around them. Yes, so there's different associations that fungus and mushrooms will have with trees. So if a mushroom has a mycorrhizal relationship where there's an exchange of nutrients with the tree, so with the oak, If the tree dies, then that fungus is no longer going to have that relationship with that tree. So yes, those mushrooms will go away. However, other fungal elements will come into a dying tree, so you could get fruitings of other mushrooms, either medicinal, edible, or otherwise, from that dying tree.
Have you been to Canada? Have you foraged or searched for mushrooms in Canada?
Yeah, I used to live in Canada for a short time. My sister lives there now. She married a lovely Canadian man. And so I go up there quite often, and I casually look for mushrooms when I'm up there visiting, but I've never gone up specifically for a mushroom hunting trip.
Someone called out that you should do a collab with Adam from Wonderland.
Oh yes, Adam Hareton. I would absolutely love to do a video with him sometime.
Do you have a favorite YouTube channel?
Do I have a favorite YouTube channel?
Maybe focus on mushrooms?
Yes. What? Yellow Eleanor? Mine?
Really?
Yellow Eleanor. No, since we just mentioned Adam, absolutely, hands down, Adam Hareton's Learn Your Land. He does other things too, like plants and such, but he has been focusing a lot more on mushrooms recently. I love his stuff. He is thorough and methodical in his delivery of information. He is out of Pennsylvania. So what's actually great is Yellow Eleanor combined with Learn Your Land. You get kind of a great, kind of North America generalized look at the fungal diversity, which is really great. Yeah, I just love his approach. He is a fantastic educator.
What are the easiest identifiable edible veggies that grow wildly in the Pacific Northwest? Also references to informational sites?
Veggies?
Veggies, they said. Is there an easy one that you can think of? You're not confident.
Okay, so like really easy plants or veggies to identify in the Pacific Northwest. Nettle, so stinging nettle, miner's lettuce, like those are really easy to IG. I don't know. Those are like probably the most two popular and easy like beginner ones for people to do. I did, I should have brought it with me. I just borrowed a book and that has Pacific Northwest plants, and it was, dang it. Maybe, can I write like notes later?
Sure, we can do a follow-up.
Okay, but the reason I love this book is it's not just your general information about the plant. It's like best time to harvest, best uses of it, even has some ethnobotany in it. The guy who put it together his passion and his career has been about ethnobotany as well. So it's a well-rounded educational resource, and I cannot remember what it is called, but I just borrowed the book from someone and I have been starting to use that. Because honestly, like, it's usually plants bring people to mushrooms. That's their journey kind of goes that way, and it was different for me. I harvested and was familiar with a lot of local berries, but mushrooms have really brought me to plants, actually, which is kind of a fun way to do it, I think.
People are really enjoying the insight into season 1.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
some people are saying they have to go back to bed because it's the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh, it's the middle of the night. That's awesome. Thank you for joining me, people who need to go back to sleep. Get your rest.
Someone says, please do this again. Dandelions, they're recommending.
Oh, dandelion. Oh yeah, dandelion's great. That's fantastic. Greens and the flowers and roots.
Oh, that's a good point. YouTube only keeps 2 hours of stream up, so.
Oh yeah, what are we
might
hitting?
Cut it off right now.
Yeah, I guess we should be ending this. What should I do for final thoughts? Final thoughts. Oh, this is fun. That's all. I really just wanted this to be fun. There's a little bit of education in there, but also just a little bit of fun. I like the personal side of things. YouTube, you don't get to see that as often. Like I mentioned in the beginning, if you don't follow me on Instagram, go do that because you get to see a little more of those insights, like how the heck season 1 was filmed, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Thanks for the woe.
Thanks for, yes, you're welcome for the woe. And I enjoyed this. I am actually physically shaking because I'm still nervous, but it was a lot of fun. I think my anxiety medication wore off. But yeah, we'll do this again. Maybe do it around some certain themes or whatnot. Some prep on your guys' side, maybe, and mine too, of things to talk about. I brought a ton of stuff too. Specific questions were asked, but I didn't even pull out any of that. So it's been a good time. Stay safe. Isolate yourself, please. And yes, medicinal mushrooms are awesome. Boost your immune system, but they're not going to save you, okay? So don't think you need to go out into the woods and learn all the herbs and the mushrooms right now. Stay isolated, stay safe, and boost your immune system with things that you already have. And keep in mind that this is a good reason to start learning some of those things, maybe. And I guess we should sign off. We good? Signing off from Washington and Oregon right over there. Bye, guys.